ceasefire agreement and what happens next. I want to bring in Miri. She is a retired colonel and director of the International Institute for Counterterrorism at Reichman University. Thanks so much for joining, and thanks very much for being patient as we waited to hear from the president.
Thank you so much for asking me. I got to hear two speeches tonight. First, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and now President Biden.
So let me ask you this. What did Israel accomplish in this war inside Lebanon? And is the damage that it caused to Hezbollah, both its weapons and its leadership, is that lasting or short term?
It's not short term, meaning this is something that has an impact for years to come. Having said that, Hezbollah has such a terror army. The numbers are so intense that statistically, if we've degraded them 70%, 80%, and that sounds like a lot, that 20% that they still have left is twice as much of what Hamas had before they started the war of October 7th, 2023. And I say that because, as mentioned before President Biden was talking, is that Iran, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, continue to arm Hezbollah, send in the weapons, pretty much have an open route, so that the big issue here is that they won't be able to rearm. But the achievements are significant.
It was notable in Netanyahu's comments that he said, in part to explain this deal, that more advanced weaponry is coming. It seemed to be a reference to the incoming U.S. administration that might not put fewer restrictions, let's be frank, because, of course, there's been a lot of criticism in this country of the Biden administration for not putting restrictions on some of the weapon shipments. But is it your impression that President-elect Trump will give Netanyahu even more leeway to go after, well, not just Hezbollah in Lebanon, but Hamas in Gaza and perhaps even Iranian targets?
Contrary to what you just asked, Jim, I don't feel here that the United States administration, this one, President Biden's, has really put, the possibilities that we won't be able to fight this war. As President Biden stated before, and as I was listening to him, I wanted to nod the whole time. Yeah. Essentially, I heard different things than what you heard, but they did send in, they did help out. They helped out at that first stage when it wasn't clear, both Hamas and
Hezbollah,
no question, and the ground attacks.
But you're aware of the pressure. There's been pressure inside this, even from within President Biden's own party, that there should have been more restrictions put on. And I just wonder, we've got a new administration coming in less than 60 days. Will they be even less inclined to put restrictions, or phrased differently, will they give Netanyahu even more freedom to carry out this war as he sees fit?
Certainly from the Israeli perspective, we think so, in the sense that the people, both within the administration, President Trump himself is harder to assess. I think you know that better than the United States than we understand even here, but that in general, it's one that understands both the threat of Iran, certainly the threat of a nuclear Iran, and Prime Minister Netanyahu put the issue of this ceasefire with Hezbollah as being central to be able to focus on that. And I do think that he expects the new Trump administration to be more supportive of that.
Supportive even of strikes potentially on Iranian nuclear sites?
It's hard to say. I do know that in Israel for many years, we have looked and followed, I myself within the intelligence community for many, many years, this slow evolution of the Iranian nuclear quest. It is a bad thing for the world. And I don't think that the nuclear issue of Iran turning nuclear should be an Israeli issue. It should be something that the entire free world should be against. So I want everybody to support the idea of making sure that Iran does not have nuclear capabilities.
It's interesting because I wonder if you think it's possible that Trump can surprise on the other side, because Trump, he's spoken publicly about this. He does not want a war in the Middle East. He does not want oil prices to go up, the economic impacts of that. And I wonder if you might see a Trump who says, no, I don't want you to go. Let me handle the nuclear threat. I'm going to try a negotiation. There's even been some discussion as to whether Trump believes he can make a deal with Iran, a better one than the Obama administration did.
I don't think you have to strike the nuclear sites. I think that everybody has to be united against the idea that Iran should be nuclear. If you can achieve it without striking the sites themselves, that's great. But to your question itself, Could President-elect Trump be different? Absolutely. One of the only things I'm not willing to assess is what President-elect Trump's next steps will be.
Yeah.
I really don't understand in that sense how you can assess that. He can be this way and he can be that way. We saw that in the first administration.
Yeah.
So taking into account, though, if you can get to a deal, I'm not against it. Let's make sure that Iran does not go nuclear.
Final question, as you know, and I'm sure you're in touch with hostage families, and I've been in touch with some as well. You know the pain they've been going through, waiting for just the possibility that their loved ones will come home. Do you see a deal with Hamas, a ceasefire, hostage release deal, as at all realistic in the near term?
I want to define near term. First of all, it's realistic. At the end, Hamas is fighting for something they have to stop. And Hamas very much were helped by Hezbollah fighting with them, by the different Iranian proxies fighting with them. They can all have whatever rhetoric they want, but Hezbollah today is agreeing to a ceasefire after Israel completely degraded their capabilities. And that will impact Hamas. I am going to hope, like President Biden, I'm going to hope it brings 101 hostages home, because until we close the hostage issue, Israel is just stuck on October 7th, 2023.
Yeah. Well, Miri Eisen, always appreciate hearing your insight. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Jim.
And thanks so much, all of you.